Hey there, Wisconsin. Jimmy Callahan, Guinness Brewery Ambassador for the Midwest, talking about the perfect pint of Guinness. You start with your clean, dry Guinness glass, right up to the tap, 45-degree angle, and pull 90 degrees towards you. You're going to watch that beer rise up to the golden harp, and then you're going to start to tilt the glass as it hits the golden harp, and end gently releasing when you hit the top of the golden harp. Now, I'm pouring into a Guinness glass. Why? Because this glass was designed for the beer. It's designed for head retention. So it holds the head that we want right at the top of the beer in order to get that nice cream, that 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch head, because all beer foam is very bitter, and we want a specific head size for the beer to match the flavor of the rest of the profile, the rest of the flavor profile of the beer. So if the head's too high, if it's too thick, the whole beer will be too bitter. If it's too shallow, if it's poured into a shaker pint, it'll thin it out because the mouth is wider. The whole beer will be too sweet. It'll taste chalky and off. So there is a method to the madness. If you don't pour into the correct glassware, you cannot have the correct flavor for your Guinness. And also, this iconic beer, it looks like no other. It's the only beer you can identify from across the room without having tasted it or smelled it. Guinness drinkers expect to see it in this glass, and you can only get a perfect pint of Guinness in this glass. So speaking of pouring, and speaking of pouring into this glass, the first part of the pour, of this two-part pour, this is establishing the head, and that only took 12 seconds for me to pour. Bartenders out there in Wisconsin, only 12 seconds. The rest of this time, I'm talking to you, but I could be talking to a customer, I could be taking care of another bar tab, I could be doing anything else. What you do with this time is your time, okay? But you have to let this pint settle, otherwise we cannot get the correct head size for the beer. And again, it only takes 12 seconds for the first part, 4 seconds to fill it up, 16 seconds total. You could do that the correct way and walk away, or you could put it on the rail, and this also takes 16 seconds. It's just a really crappy way to pour, and you're going to do yourself a disservice because Guinness drinkers, you want them in your bar. They spend more money in your bar than any other beer drinker because they're usually buying in rounds because it's only 4.2%, and they're usually buying food, and they're usually with friends because Guinness drinkers are pretty rad. So you finish off by doing that. You usually get some spillage, and you get a far inferior pint with these big unsightly bubbles in the top, and it's a whole bunch of slop. It's disrespectful to the beer, disrespectful to your consumers by pouring in that way. You get those two colors right there. It's ready to pour. Bring it back up to the tap, and I'm just going to raise it up to the rim of the glass. By pushing away from the tap, you have control over the speed of it, and then you've got your perfect pint of Guinness with that nice domed effect, and as opposed to this beer, which will never have that dome, and you can see the difference right there. So 16 seconds the other way. Which way do you prefer? Hopefully you choose wisely, Wisconsin. Sláinte.